it's not really something that I like get worried about in my work, and I think partially that's because the content in my work deals with these like social issues of like fame and the way that you portrayed in an environment and the way that you think of yourself. So I think like, I don't know, in making paintings about these social things and then in like walking through them myself, I kind of feel like I'm able to like see art in both my practice and how I'm going along doing it, and also in how I'm, like what I'm painting about. It's really cool when you feel like you really just know when things are going the right way. A lot of times, like I have very, very crazy vivid dreams, and like I used to just write them down, and I had like over 40 pages of like single space just like typed out dreams, because I'd wake up and be like, oh, that was a trip, like I'll save that for later. And then eventually like I would just start being like, oh, okay, like this is what I should do then. That's what cool. I should do. And it like really clicked in a way that made sense. Just like, you see that there's a male and a female, and then it's their interaction with each other in this like very intimate space. And like, I guess specifically about this one, what was like most like striking and exciting to me was like, I used pink and blue, so those are like the male and female colors. And there's like blue mainly shining on the male, and then pink mainly shining on the female, and behind their heads there's like a Venn diagram of the blue and the pink, so each of them sort of have these three heads that are like the male and female in them, and then like within that they're having this like kind of interpersonal, cool. Silly connection. And I don't know, I just sort of, I'm not saying anything specifically, I just sort of wanted to like, sort of like shine those lights on like that male and female relationship. So yeah, another thing that is sort of a thread throughout this whole series of paintings is that, you know, as you can see, there's these really, really bright colors in human skin. And I mean, the idea behind that is like, I'm really fascinated for now with this idea of like these synthetic forces that exist out in society, like illuminating the human skin. So it's sort of like superimposed on like what is the most natural is like these synthetic forces. And then also I like to, I'm really fascinated with these like tactile like patterns and fashion and all of these like other synthetic things. So I often like to show people with their specific style and how they project themselves on an environment.
Awesome. That's amazing. That's cool.
Yeah. So that's sort of an overarching theme that I'm talking about in all of these, even though I'm talking about them like more specifically right now. So then this one is sort of meant to be a little bit more psychological for the viewer, that's how I intended it, but I don't know if that's really all that's going on up in here. It might just be psychological for me too. But how I was thinking of it was like, there are these curtains, and the viewer can really engage in this painting, or that's my hope, and I want it to be sort of ambiguous what role the viewer's playing in it. So, you know, are you keeping Tom, and you know, you're looking through this window and this woman just woke up and saw you staring in at their like intimate bedtime situation, or like, are they just watching TV and their blue feed or just the light and you're not even there, you know, or, I don't know, I kind of wanted it to just be like them looking at you and you looking into a situation, it's a little eerie and you don't necessarily know if you belong there. This is a portrait of a friend of mine who I went to high school with, and what I did, you might be interested in this interviewing me right now, but what I did was, you know, I don't really want to get into it, but she had a lot of like kind of issues and like a lot of sadness in high school, to the point that towards the end of high school I wasn't really able to communicate with her anymore. So I wanted to make this painting of her sort of like pushing up, and she's like horribly obsessed with shoes, so I called it the shoe box. She's like pushing out of this box and she's got shoes on her hands and her feet.
That's cool.
Yeah. For me, like, there are a few different concepts that I'm working with that like it just makes sense for me because I'm making this series of paintings. So I'm pulling from other things I've worked with. For example, pushing up. That's something that I'm dealing with a lot, like physically pushing up. And then this idea of having these like straight spaces that you're inside of that are very man-made and having a human inside of them. And then having the synthetic color superimposed on the human figure. So those are all, that's all symbolism that's sort of intrinsic in my work. But other than that, like, I don't want it to be so symbolism heavy that the viewer needs to have a conversation with me.
Yeah.
You know, I'd really rather it just be what it is if possible, and then have the viewer get whatever that they want from it, you know? That's my hope. I hope that happens. So I studied abroad in Venice, Italy during my junior year in college. And what I did while I was there was I created this like closed off dark box out of my studio. So it already had 3 walls, and I just sort of like closed it off with another wall, so it was pitch black inside. And I was at the time becoming very interested in like, how can I put these bright colors on these people and make it look real and make the colors make sense. And what I did was I shined colored lights on the model inside of the box. But what was so cool is because I wasn't exposed to natural light at all. I was inside of this pitch black studio space. My own perception of color was completely altered, so I would shine a green and a pink light, and a tube of paint that I knew as blue turned into like a brown-yellow color because it was so altered based on the colored lights that I was shining. So, but what I did was I let my eyes totally adjust to this box. I painted my model. I tried very hard not to even look at color names that I knew as being colors beforehand. And then after completing an entire painting inside this box, I'd be like tripping out. Like, you know, there's like staring into bright lights for that long isn't the best for you. So it'd be maybe like 6 or 8 hours in that box. I would finally like take the painting out of the box into natural light, and it was so striking to me because like not only did my own perception shift so drastically, but the painting itself, like the colors were like night and day or something like, you know, so different.
And then so when you say that, you know, you're thinking about how the synthetic light reflects off of people, and is it like symbolic of their personality, or symbolic of what other people think of them?
Yeah.
Or maybe all of it together, right?
It's really interesting to me how like a person will project themselves, how they are inside, how they want people to see them, and then in turn in that specific place, how somebody is going to receive them and see them. And like just in traveling and stuff, I find that like the way you project yourself in San Diego is going to be, the way people receive you in San Diego is going to be very different than the way people receive you in Missouri or something, you know. So I don't know, it's all kind of very interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of neat.